it's in relation to the second presentation. So I was wondering, out of curiosity, what's after the rinsing, how you are ensuring that the cabinet is clean for the next round?
Yes, we do a daily check on it every day. So every morning I'll go in, I'll check the bicarb levels. It does have a weight, which you can gradually see decreasing as you use it, so you know when to change it. We do have a spray called SaniSafe, which we douse the cabinet in. We leave it to soak for about 10 minutes, and then we just use the actual water jet inside the machine to rinse that down.
Thanks very much. I'm Trevor Garcia, IDSC Chair, National Chair, and consultant, Decon consultant. It's regarding the first presentation, which was absolutely superb. Well done. Congratulations. It's really pleasing. I'm here. It's really pleasing to see the way that the training is being adopted within your organisation. The one bit that probably I would add is, as most of you are aware, there was an NETB 2024/1 competency and training of staff that was available since May 2024. How are you looking to try and meet the requirements of that regarding the qualifications in there? I see you're doing the level 2.
Yes.
How about moving on?
Well, our operational manager's already been discussing all of the stuff he needs to do with uncharted members of the IDFC. And I think certainly everything we're doing here is fueling that fire, isn't it? It's about that qualification pathway. One of the things I would say that did stand out for me on that bulletin is the role of training manager did not exist. And so I felt quite an outlier when I looked at it. However, I know it's embedded in all the roles. When things are embedded, they probably don't always get that prioritisation or investment. So that's maybe a future consideration. But that's budgets again, isn't it? And structures and hierarchies. So.
Absolutely agree. We did discuss putting training manager in there, but we had to base it on the healthcare science career pathways and job descriptions, etc., and the ones that are already on the website. And we weren't able to put training manager in, but absolutely essential, and the mentoring, I think, is totally support. It's no good putting people on training programs if you're not going to get people mentoring them.
Yeah.
And not giving them time to do it, otherwise you set them up to fail.
Yeah, it's like microwave training the age, yeah.
I'm Tasha, I'm from the University of Exeter. I have a question for Dawn. It was really refreshing to see the consideration that you're giving to more sort of inclusive learning, things like accessibility, digital exclusion, the micro-learning, all those things that will make learning more accessible to your staff. I was curious to know your opinion around CPD and external training providers. Do you feel that there is more that could be done from their end to make learning more accessible? In your ideal learning world, what would you like to see from these external providers for your staff?
So in the previous conference I went to, I was actually talking to AVM. I think I mentioned briefly they had DOT, but I think there has to be this constant dialogue, because a lot of them are, the actual e-learning that you experience isn't necessarily interactive as well. Some of them can be quite sort of PowerPoint driven and very narrative. So I think there's a lot to be learned, and bringing in some of that understanding about digital learning into this other world needs to be a synergy there, I think. That would be my view. But there are some fantastic suppliers willing to have that conversation and want to make the changes and want to know what would you like from us. So it's just starting that journey with them.
Thank you.
I think just to come in on that, Dawn, I think I'm a firm believer. If you're giving training, it's got to be scenario-based, because then you get them to think.
Yes.
They actually go from there and thought, well, do you know what? I overcome that problem as part of the scenario. Because as you said, PowerPoints can be, you know, people can drift off halfway through.
Yeah, and virtual reality, I mean, that will be a next thing, won't it? Where you can actually, you know, do a tray or something in a virtual world, you know. It's not that far off, is it, I suppose, in many countries. So.
Put a dirty instrument in there and
see if they,
we
go.
pick it up there.
My name is Lorenzo Sumakala. I'm the project manager of the Biker Med Society, so I can answer for you, sir. 98% of positive and to 42%.
Speak up a bit, please. You can't
Sorry,
down the front.
sorry. Is the result about the study that we did 7 years ago. We followed the Annex N test procedure and to make dirty instruments and then cleaning and test it after the cleaning. So we use a machine that is called ProReveal to detect and to find the protein residues on the surface. So we compare then standard pre-cleaning method like sinks or ultrasound. Then the instruments go into a cleaning washing disinfector, but without the thermal disinfection action, and we detect the protein. And we did the same, but before using our machine, the sodium bicarbonate, pre-cleaning, and after the same washing cycle. And then we test again, and we test again with the ProReveal machine, the protein residues on the surface. That was why we have these numbers.
Thank you. I will take the profit and complete the information about our background. We are a group of 4 patent examiners from the European Patent Office. My name is Bogdan Biola. And I was following all the presentations. For us in particular, we are used to talk to the inventors, but it's very interesting to see the perspective of the users, because from the inventors, we see what they claim, we are doing this and that, but from the users, we see much more the problems you are facing. In particular to the presentation of Dawn, we all are very much interested in training, teaching. All of us are experienced coach and trainer. It's a very heroic activity, and it was very interesting to see. You had a slide with the main challenges of in a training, and we thought we can put there the European Patent Office on the slide, and it would fit 100%. So I think that these are universal challenges, and I admire people really taking this challenge. It's not easy. Thank you.
I'd like to pose a question. There's a number of my AED colleagues who are sitting very quiet out there in the audience. Obviously, we've talked, Rob highlighted the automated pre-cleaning systems that are coming on the market slowly but surely. Obviously, this type of device, which is a similar sort of concept, how do we as a group ensure that validation systems are as they should be for these pre-cleaning type of devices? What should be the requirements, do you think, Mark, looking at the things like ultrasonics, and which may be a comparable piece of equipment?
So, we've had this conversation quite recently. How do we verify all this new technology that's coming in? And that's still something that needs to be discussed. All the AEs having the same view? Are we agreeing with each other? We say we need to meet more, we need to look at all these new projects coming in and actually come to a consensus between ourselves on what do we do when there are no guidelines about. So we've got all the new cleaning coming in for endoscopy that we talked about this morning. This new machine we just talked about. I'd personally like to see a bit more of the science behind it. What is the sodium bicarbonate doing? What is its chemical action? How is that removing the blood? So as far as validation and testing of these machines go, yes, it's a machine. We do need to validate it, but we don't validate manual cleaning, which is what this is replacing. So there's talks to be had, that's what I can say at the moment.
Just while he's waiting for the mic, John, it's a pre-clean, it's a pre-wash.
Absolutely.
So rather than water and detergent, you've got water and bicarb. And I know that the guys will have lots of information they can give you about the chemical action of bicarb. But that's what we're trialling it for, is it a better way to pre-clean items other than just a sink? It will never replace the sink because you've still got to use the sink. You can't put everything through one cabinet. You'll have a sink and a bicarb in the same room, and it's just a different way to.
But is it not dissimilar to an ultrasonic bath in an SSD, where there's been validation protocols in place for over 30 years. Being devil's advocate.
I don't think that will also remain, I think.
Yeah.
But it's, yeah.
Wayne.
If his is working, yeah. If it becomes part of an IFU, then it will need validating. So we need to work out what standard we're going to validate it to. So there's a lot of work to do. We can't just accept it as an unvalidated system.
It's somewhere in between, isn't it? That's the problem. Any other of our AEDs, Rob? You're not an AED, but
no, I'm not an AED.
You've jumped in there.
I'm gonna jump in.
Do you want to do the framework? £8,000, please.
I don't think I've got the time at the minute. But no, I hearing what Neil says, and I take everyone's comments on board, but it's a new way, and it's a new device. It is somewhere in between, and like Mark said, it's what it's replacing. We don't currently validate the pre-clean or the manual process, but then this isn't a manual process. So do we need to validate it? And I think at the moment the only thing I can think of is looking at what we're trying to achieve with these devices, and it's just clean efficacy. We're just wanting to make sure that it's removing the soil. Outside of that, I don't think we need to have a labour-intensive validation of these devices, other than maybe checking that the parameters that it operates to are still functional and not slipping over time.
So I think this is where we're coming, isn't it? That, you know, probably the frequency of the validation is going to be nowhere near what some of our automated equipment will be. However, we may need perhaps annual frequency visits.
Like a recalibration.
That type of thing.
6 monthly recalibration, do a cleaning efficacy to make sure it's still performing optimally.
Yes.
I think that's what we can look to, rather than having. I mean, ultrasonics are. There's a lot going on there, so I wouldn't put it in the same light as an ultrasonic. But yeah, I think a hybrid model of the two, because it is essentially it's a hybrid device.
Are you going against the IFUs and therefore the integrity of the medical device by using something that's not in the IFU?
I think that's one for you two.
So we've got this device on trial, and we, as we understand it, the suppliers have done lots of testing with various medical devices, and at the end of the day, it's bicarbonate of soda, which you would happily eat during baking. So I don't really see it as an aggressive chemical, which we know all our detergents are. So that's how we've seen it, and we do have it as a trial. So if there are any adverse effects, we would also be looking to report those.
The manufacturer's IFUs is an important one, and a couple of years ago with Graham we had this very debate with a room full of AEs about automated pre-clean devices, and it was along the lines of, it's not in the manufacturer's IFUs. Well, no, because these devices have been invented since the IFUs have written, so and you have to go against the IFUs to some extent, because it's, you know, this is the future. But like you say, it's the risk factor. Do the companies accept the indemnity if there is any device damage? That's probably one to look at, if they would support that, because they know that they're trying to promote this device. They've done, like Neil said, they've done all the testing to prove that it's going to be okay for use on the instruments. So maybe they need to accept the indemnity if there's any damage as a result. Just having that confidence, maybe that'll help people be able to do it without worrying about the IFUs too much.
I think one thing that the IFUs will always say is follow the guidelines of HTMO 101 or HTMO 106. I think we're in a good position now going forward. There is a commitment to rewrite the HTMs, and I think when we do rewrite the HTMs, this is the time to build in these innovations and, you know, talk about the things that we're talking about here, about, you know, does it need validation, accountability, etc. So I think that's probably all we can do. The manufacturers, as you know, some of these pieces of equipment are outside of the UK, so we have that every day of our working lives, don't we?
It's the same as when we did the HTMs or CFPPs, when they were transferring over back and forth, about the proteins. You know, we said these are the methods of protein detection to use, or any future methods that come out. So it is having a statement in there to say that we know that there's going to be future developments within the industry.
Because of the infrequency of the HTMs, the fact is that we know innovations will be coming out all the time now between the issues. And we can't always wait for the guidance. Otherwise, how do you get anything new coming onto the system? You can't expect manufacturers of every medical device that may need the bicarb or the systems for the endoscopes to immediately redo all their IFUs the minute that they come available. They haven't been proven necessarily on the market. So I think very much within the HTMs, what we should be doing when we're reviewing them is looking at incorporating within them a guidance around how you manage innovative decontamination processing equipment, what you should consider, and more or less a checklist and a basic risk assessment for everybody to be able to use, so that we at least ensure before this equipment's put into use, the organisation that's doing it has an outline of how to go about it, instead of each trust or organisation making up their own ideas of how to introduce it and introduce their own processing or their own risk process. I think within the HTMs we should actually have an outline in there to guide them.
No, thank you, Trevor.
Sounds like a job for the AEs.
Not only them.
Well, I know it's going to end up with, yeah. Yeah. But like I said, there are murmurings from NHS England, and obviously I think this time they want to bring the guidance in holistically with Wales, Scotland and Ireland. So hopefully we'll be going back to where we were, which was more concise guidance, possibly applicable to all areas of the UK, which to me is a good thing. Obviously, you mentioned that things are ongoing now.
Yeah.
How did you find the attitude before you implemented all this? Did you find there was a reluctance to accept differing and probably higher education systems, or did you bring everybody along? Was there a motivation? You know, some of your lower grade technicians, were they happy to follow along?
I think it's an ongoing conversation, and you've got a broad range. And like I said there, we have a lot of people who they've already left the building, you know, they've just not, and they don't want to engage in any more learning. But there's also an appetite. You know, we're bringing in new starters who are really wanting to learn this field, and they're starting to get excited and want to. Say John, he after his induction, he came to me with a training manual that he put together himself. Now, in the 4 years I've never had anybody come to me with that. I was over the moon. So it's a lot of it is probably bringing that attitude and that desire to learn into the new sort of setup as well. Not everybody's left the building. There are experienced people who really still want to learn, but it's a battle. You just have to know your learners, don't you? You have to get to know people. What do you want? Where are you going in your life?
Do you think, we talk about HTMs, and I know it's not directly related, but JAG in the endoscopy world has been a major driver for audit, for change, for education. Obviously SSD has been outside of that remit. It's got the notified body audits, but I think when I look at them, it's certainly not as critical as what JAG asked. Do you think possibly we could learn a bit from that? And I know Trevor and the team have issued their bulletin, but again, we had a discussion at CSC back last October, and it was like 50-50. 50 were for, and then there was 50 that were putting up objections. How do we get over that?
To be honest, that's a question I don't have an answer to right now. It's new to me what you're talking about, but I'd definitely say if you've got someone taking a lead in something, then you need to tap into that, don't you? And you need to understand the differences as well.
Rob?
So, like you've said, the technical bulletin that was released last year, that's had a massive impact in gaining support for this. Historically, as Dawn said, there was a lack of investment within sterile services, particularly for training. They had no training budget. Nobody went on CPD, and it was just in-house what we could cobble together as a department. I came in and started introducing the need and to have the underpinning knowledge of the decontamination sciences, and the barrier was always the funding. We managed to get the funding for the sterile service departments, but it wasn't until NEPA was released that the whole trust woke up, because now we've got a regulation, we've got a guidance document, and it's saying you need to have competency for all decontamination personnel, and that's when the trust really sort of sat up and took notice. And I think that's what the other decontamination professionals, whether you're decontamination lead, sterile service manager, endoscope decontamination manager, you need to reference that document and get it in front of your trust boards, so they understand that there is an ask out there, that we've got 5 years to be compliant, and there's a lot of education to do. So that's been a great driver.
So obviously Rob's trust is supported. Is anybody out there with a trust that possibly has been a little bit less supportive? Anybody having difficulty securing funding for this type of training?
We have a problem more endoscopy in our trust. We're HCAs rather than technicians, and getting any training there is really, really hard to get. Our trust just doesn't want to know, really, if I'm honest.
Yeah. Any thoughts, Dawn?
Well, the only thought that sprang to mind with our challenge is it doesn't always have to be budget driven, does it? Because you've got apprenticeships and there's a levy and it's a big pot. The challenge with apprenticeships then is the actual downtime, and obviously if you're in a headcount short situation, you're not in a position to offer that 1 day a week offline as well. That's why we're trying to look at it in different ways.
Our trust has... Our trust has... We have mentioned that, and they've started the apprenticeship for that. Yeah. But they're only employing HEAs in endoscopy, and HEAs want to be patient-based. They're not interested in decontamination.
For the training of them, you can get it through the education departments.
Not for HEAs, that's for nurses.
You get for AHPs as well.
Don't know.
That's how we got the funding for our endoscopy training. We just have to apply for. We just have to do a TNA and do the application for it every year, but it comes through the education department.
So we've had the same issue with how it's not decontamination technicians in certain areas, but what we've done is we've brought it up in our decontamination user groups and escalated it to get that training on board, and explain the importance that they all need to be decontamination trained, because, and the same as what you were saying, they're interested in the clinical side, and that's what they did when they applied for the jobs. But we are trying to re-educate them that how important decontamination is. So it's about that escalation to try and get that into them.
I think that's a good discussion, and I think, you know, if we can all learn together on that, because I know where I am. Some organisations seem to be well supported, others not so. So it's how we move that forward together, I think.
And we've audited a lot of areas,
yes,
especially the ones that are run by clinical staff rather than decontamination, and picked up a few faults.
If you are JAG, you know, if you're JAG accredited, utilise that to secure the funding, because they are quite powerful. And people listen to JAG, I will say.